The eyes of Hugo Chavez looking over Caracas. But now he's dead. And the poor living there in the barrios, historically his political base, have turned against the movement he created.
Bread, medicine, toilet paper. These are just some of the basic necessities Venezuelans are struggling to find. The falling global oil prices have hit the country hard. Public services are disappearing one after the other. American officials are warning the country is on the brink of collapse.
Venezuela is in a state of emergency right now. Its currency has been devalued 92% since the last 2 years alone.
The amount of hyperinflation here is actually just unbelievable. You need a backpack full of money to buy a dinner.
Venezuela bet everything on the price of oil remaining high. And with government revenue 95% dependent on it, the plunge in oil has sent the economy reeling. As a result, GDP is predicted to contract 5.8% in 2016, the third straight year of negative growth. And Venezuela has the world's largest inflation rate, the IMF expecting it to reach 700% this year.
There were poverty reduction programs that were very much tied to political loyalty. They were not set up to be sustainable.
It started with a theory that capitalism is bad, a theory that private property and a division of labor is bad. One of the first things Hugo Chavez did was seize the land. He seized over 1,000 industrial enterprises, nationalizing them. He took over the energy grid. He took over the production of oil, which is today the only way that Venezuela generates revenue.
Now that oil prices are down and the government did not have the provision to save for rainy days, now Venezuelans are left with nothing in a country that only produces oil, that imports everything.
Venezuela could grow most of its own food thanks to large expansion of fertile land. But through the years, most of its agriculture has been abandoned, and other farms like this one have been expropriated by the government, and production has collapsed.
The government just lost control of the situation.
Last week, you'll remember President Nicolas Maduro had to hike petrol prices by 6,000%. So with all this, fears are growing that Venezuela soon won't be able to afford its debt repayments. In fact, bonds are already trading at levels that suggest a default is priced in.
Venezuelans in Caracas, the capital city, we have a very tough time accessing basic necessities, but the people in the interior of the country, in the states, in the province, have it even worse. And we're not just talking about medicine. We're not just talking about basic things such as toilet paper. We're talking about food, and that's where the situation escalates.
Lines down the block for just basic necessities, line down the blocks for public transportation that is insufficient, and then a lot of people talk about the toilet paper with the government setting up a set price so poor people could afford toilet paper.
Even in the driving rain, Venezuelans started their day in search of food, expecting to see the usual grim queues that form at government stores. Not today. The only stores with affordable food are shut. Closed for the National Workers' Holiday, the sign explains. It says sorry and thank you. People walked away empty-handed but full of dread, wondering where their next meal might come from. And here's the thing. These people aren't allowed to come back tomorrow. Food is rationed here, doled out according to the last number on your government ID. Carlos Chirinos explains his turn is today. His number is 5.
Cinco. Hoy me toca a mí.
Cinco.
Me toca hoy y el miércoles.
El miércoles. So he's saying that just today and Wednesday can he buy things, and because it's closed today, he's out of luck.
The things that we have experienced, the things that we have seen here in Venezuela are absolutely insane.
We went to some of the restaurants, and all the prices on the menu are in paper, and they taped onto the menu because they have to change it every week, and sometimes even more than that. It's changing that fast. It's really it's interesting, and you brought up the gun-free zones. That's the most interesting part to me, is no one is allowed to have a gun, and this is the murder capital of the world. So we walk into the hotel at night because we're a little crazy. We're told by everyone, don't go out, and we went out. There was no one anywhere. It was like a ghost ghost town. And when we get back, the security guard is hiding behind a door because he doesn't have a gun, and the bad people all have guns.
The situation in Venezuela is dire, and it is dire in many different ways, socially, politically, as well as economically.
Yerma is a mother on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
That's the result of 5 days without water. This is how we live now as Venezuelans. We've lost our quality of life. As you can see, we were middle-class people, and now we're not even that anymore. Just look at the kitchen. This is how we live now that we have no water. Now it's just arrived, so I've started the washing machine, and I'm filling buckets so that I can cook.
Water and electricity are both being rationed. Everyone is feeling the pinch.
Until last year, working 4 jobs, I earned about $300 a month. This year, working the same 4 jobs, I only make $100, and this will keep diminishing as our currency devalues.
Ephraim is a trauma surgeon working in Caracas's public hospitals. Free healthcare was one of the foundations of the Chavist regime.
These are all the bandages we've got, 6 little rolls. And these here are made in China, very poor quality. It tears your skin off.
We've seen food shortages, medicine shortages, now basic services, electricity, even water, that is not reaching a big portion of Venezuela's population.
This is what buying food looks like in Venezuela. Waiting for hours, hoping that by the time one hands in their allotted number, there'll still be food left. And this is what it feels like.
This is the greatest sadness because I didn't know this Venezuela several years ago. For us, this is something new, something unbelievable, unacceptable. It has no other name but catastrophic.
I left home at 4 in the morning. I went to several places for nothing. All I could buy is a pack of maize flour, no more. This has to stop. The one who needs to leave will leave. We'll kick him out of power.
Basic food supplies are being sold on the black market for 10 or 20 times the price supplied by the government.
Without the black market, the country would crunch to a halt.
At the supermarkets, the queues go down the street.
There is no even coffee. If they can find sugar, they take hot water with sugar in the morning, and they try to eat once at 3 o'clock to be able to sleep until the next day.
So this is a true country in collapse. This is a hyperinflation and socialism reaching its ultimate end.
Government officials say the state of emergency will allow better distribution of resources.
The state of emergency has little to do with the economic situation. It's more to do with how a government that has lost all popular support, how can they control society? When you start asking about the alternative explanations the government has given, what they call an economic war, or the aggression, or the imperialist agenda, it does not poll, it does not even register with Venezuelans. So it's all seen as excuses.
The criminality is brought on by the government as a way to control the people. Like, we were driving by and our fixer showed us this huge building. And he was like, yeah, this is a building, a skyscraper, that's being run by a criminal organization. There's people squatting in there, and this is where all the kidnapping happens. But you walk around town, and there's government-mandated signs saying gun-free zones everywhere you go, and no smoking signs, while there's massive, incredible crime.
By some estimates, there were nearly 4,000 murders here last year.
You have all these are not only civilians and military and Chavistas in opposition, you also have criminal gangs battling it out. It's a recipe, as we have seen in the Middle East, for chaos.
The criminals here are running around, just doing whatever they want, kidnapping whoever they want, murdering whoever they want with pure impunity. Meanwhile, the government sends in their agents to every business, to every private place, to every public park, to make sure that everyone has mandated signs that say no smoking, no guns, and you can't be racist.
The way things are going, there might just be a revolt. People are looting. There was looting even over the weekend, right after the state of emergency was declared. I've seen video footage, and the people are just taking into shopping malls, and if the military fires on the people, you'll see something akin to the Arab Spring.
Venezuelans have to place our fingers on fingerprint scanners in order to buy medicine and food. They tell us that there's controls over your ID number. You can only buy on certain days. You can only buy certain quantities of food. So this all boils down to a model, a political and economic control model that has decimated the economic apparatus, that has decimated national production, expropriating businesses, expropriating the producers of food and basic means.
I have called for the armed forces and militia to hold national military exercises to prepare us for any scenario.
Yes, while his citizens are starving, Maduro decided now would be a great time to spend money on the biggest military exercise in Venezuelan history.
The military has become the main basis, the main pillar of support of the Chavismo regime. That is very important for everyone to know. What we're seeing, even though Mr. Maduro is a civilian, is basically a military government.
From my experiences here, this government here is run by criminals. This is a criminal state.
When we ask the people, yes, the situation is bad now, but how do you see the situation in the next 12 months? The Venezuelans answer, over 62% of Venezuelans answer that it will get worse. And over 60% of Venezuelans blame the government directly for the crisis.
Opinion polls suggest 70% of Venezuelans think President Maduro should step down.
He recently suggested punishing business owners who've ceased operations by jailing them and seizing their factories.
Las plantas que haya parado cualquier pelucón en este país.
An idle factory will be a factory handed over to the people.
The opposition won the majority of seats in the National Assembly last December, but since then nearly all of its decisions have been struck down by the Supreme Court. So now almost 2 million people have signed the opposition's petition to force Maduro out of office.
The question right now to point out is that we all know that President Maduro is not going to finish his term. There is no way under the circumstances that President Maduro is going to finish.
He's not going to go quietly. As a matter of fact, what we've seen since the December 6 elections, where the opposition won the National Assembly in a landslide victory, is the whole state, not only the executive power, not only the president, but also the Supreme Tribunal, also the armed forces, closing ranks with the president in setting up obstacles to that political change that Venezuelans expressed as their will.
Si ustedes trancan la vía democrática, nosotros no sabemos lo que pueda pasar en este país. Venezuela es una bomba que en cualquier momento puede explotar.
Where is this country headed, and can this crisis be resolved in a peaceful manner?
Well, I doubt it, because we have reached the peak of the tensions between the government and the opposition. And that's why I don't think there is going to be a peaceful solution unless the government led the democratic mechanism, like the recall referendum, in order to try to bring some changes in the country. So, and I don't see, because the government is trying to delay all the process, the democratic process, and trying to use some force.
For those people who do like Bernie Sanders, come to Venezuela, check it out.